I have been looking forward to this, I have to say.
Yeah, me too. Me
Um,
too.
and I'd arranged my day so that I would have an hour or possibly an
Hmm.
hour and a half to sit here and set everything up exactly the way I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I had a lady come into the house for a session with me this morning, as I do, as you know, distance work and work in person with people. And in my diary, kind of in black and white, it says, lady coming, 11 o'clock. And I'm speaking with someone on the phone at 10 o'clock. I thought, yeah, that's good because I can, my leisurely start to the day, I can have a bath, wash my hair. And it doesn't matter if my hair is wet when I'm on the phone. They're not going to see it. And I can just, ease into the day and let one thing that happens speak to the next thing. And at 10 o'clock, as I'm about to pick up the phone, the doorbell goes. And I thought, oh, maybe it's a postman. It's that kind of time. But no. So the lady comes to the door and doing my best, trying not to look surprised to see her. I said, I've not met her before. I said, is so-and-so, so-and-so? And she said, yes. I said, welcome, you're bang on time, perfect time. I said, actually, I wasn't sure if we'd said 10 or 11, which is why my hair is wet, but I had this feeling that it wasn't 11, it was 10. And you're here now, and that's the proof that it was 11. 10,
So
not 11.
hilarious.
It's funny. It, it's kind of, it's, I think it's an aspect for me of working from home rather than getting up and going somewhere else and going to the office. And I like it. I like the freedom, the flexibility, the spontaneity. And actually, we were talking about how to be informed by the future.
Joe, I want to
And
inform you
yes,
at this moment that we are live on Facebook.
fabulous. Okay.
So,
Oh, so we're not just on Zoom. This is going on to Facebook.
yes, yes, into the
Yeah.
group for 550 people.
Perfect. Well, hello, 550 people.
Welcome, Joe. Welcome to Wealthy Wednesdays.
Thank you.
I am
Okay.
really excited that you are here.
Good. I'm very happy to be here, very excited, live and direct from Peru, as you can see, or with the miracles of modern green screen technology that I thought would help. Well, it's nice to create an ambience, isn't it?
It is.
And particularly when we're looking at the medium of story and myth. And, I think story and myth are really important in our lives. And I was reading some comments on YouTube. One of my favorite movies, one of my most inspiring movies, is called Finding Joe. I don't know if you've come across it or if people listening and watching have seen this movie.
I'm not
It's
sure I've watched this one.
okay. Um, it used to be it's probably still is available to buy from Amazon, but I think it's David Solomon. The last name is Solomon. He's created this movie, Finding Joe, which is a biography of the most important aspects of the work of Joseph Campbell. And it really is about the hero's journey, and what that can mean.
Mm.
So there are clips probably from everyone's favorite movies all the way through this movie, Finding Joe. And they've made the original film authentically available in its entirety to watch for free on YouTube. So we can find the link and stick it into the message thread later on after this broadcast, I guess, for people to watch if they want to. But in the little introduction, he speaks about how valuable Joseph Campbell's work is, particularly because we are a mythically deprived society. We don't have good stories. If we look to our leaders, the politicians, the governments, very few people find a leader that they're inspired by or that they can trust. And so how are we to develop our own idea of how we can be leaders, how we can lead other people if we don't have examples, stories that we can live by? and just coming back to how the future and the past link together. And I was just saying about working from home. It suddenly occurred to me. My son now is, oh my goodness me, I have to do my mathematics. So what year is it? 2020. So he's 26. And we lived in this tiny little cottage in a little village in Wales that used to be a Roman village. It had a lot of history about it. And I was working full time and trying to find a balance between home and family life. And I think my work reduced at one point, and I was working part time. And I thought, how else can I augment my money and stay at home and work? And there was a popular magazine at the time. I don't remember the title. I think it was aimed more at working women than working men. But it was a fairly substantial, bit more than a coffee time magazine, and they had a competition. And the competition was to win a computer and a fax machine and a printer and all these other bits so you could have a home office and work from home. And I didn't have work that I could really do from home. You know, today it's a very different story where we are this year. But I remember applying for it, and I told them a story about how I imagined my life would change and what I would be able to do, how I would be able to stay at home and look after my son and to work and to do the things I'd want to do. I hadn't identified what work I was going to do. I just said I'll be able to work from home. And, well, I didn't win the competition, but that was 26. Oh, goodness me. No, he may have been only one or two. So or maybe one, let's say it was 25 years ago. And now 25 years. Yeah. Yes, he was born in 94. So a year later, I think around about that time. And I find myself with my Logic Pro super duper camera on a tripod and my MacBook and a green screen, and I'm working from home. Either we're at distance working or people are coming to the house to see me. Of course, I'd really like to be back here in Peru, but it wasn't possible with travel this year. And sometimes it's only later in the day, I think, that we realize that there was a moment in time somewhere before, and we might not have seen it for all that it could be, but it's like a seed gets dropped from somewhere into the earth, the rich earth of the life we're cultivating, and it begins to grow as something new. So I suppose that's a story, but it's not the story I really wanted to share with people.
So why don't we talk about the story that you want to share with people, starting with your own story?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've lived many different lifetimes, done many different things since 1964 when I was born, and living and working as a shaman wasn't really part of any of my visions until much more recently. In fact, in my 20s, I connected with a chap who is a British guy, Dusty Miller, and he is what he calls a live wood shaman. And he creates wands and wooden tokens made in ceremony from ancient trees that create magical partnerships between people and the dryad, the spirit of the tree, so that they can come and help us. Trees generally don't walk. They stay where they're rooted. And so some of them are very interested in coming and joining people on their journeys and having adventures themselves. And I remember receiving this one little wand about this big from him called a healer's friend. And I thought I was interested in Tai Chi, I was interested in yoga, and my world was beginning to expand at that time, thinking about therapies and it's very exciting, lots of new things, trying a little bit of everything to see what I like the taste of really. And this arrived, little wand in a package, very unassuming, with a little handwritten leaflet, and it said, "Ideal as an assistant for um, acupuncturists, reflexologists," and a little list, and at the bottom it said shaman. And I thought, oh no, that's definitely not me. And it was like such a little shudder. I remember it and thinking, oh, whenever I have a strong reaction to something, someone says, would you like this? I say, oh yes, please, I'd love that. I think, oh, okay, that surprised me, but yes, there's something in me. Or when I say, or someone else says, oh no, not Marmite, no, never, no, wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, or something. Shaman, no, that's not me. It's the strength of the reaction that strikes the curiosity. And I think, I wonder what that's about. And so, many years later, after many adventures, teaching yoga, working in primary care as a counselor, lots and lots of different things, I found myself looking to add something to my healing practice, which was mostly organized around yoga and Reiki at that time. And I wondered, possibly, if I could find what I was looking for in shamanism. And I didn't know anything about shamanism at all, in terms of what it was supposed to mean, what the word really meant. I had some ideas. The internet was still just kind of gathering momentum, but there was lots of bits and pieces, but they seemed to be very objective points of view. So, but all the same, I thought, I'm going to check this out. And it took me a while, stepping in and out of different traditions and other people's work, to find the path or a tradition that, for me, felt like it really had heart and strength at the same time. Something that was real and powerful and genuine, and not wafty, that it was grounded, that it was strong medicine. And I found a few different paths that kind of had that, but didn't really connect with my heart, until I found myself stepping into the teachings and traditions of the Incas. And from the first moment, I thought, no, I'd never been to Peru at this point. In fact, India was where I always went. I love India and the deep, rich history of culture and yoga and Ayurveda in particular. And someone had said to me one time, I think in my early 20s, I was in India. They said, oh, we're going to Peru next year. We're going to do the Inca Trail. And I thought, nah, it doesn't interest me at all. And again, it's that, strong response about what doesn't interest me that I now mark up and think, I'll have to look at that again later. So I found myself stepping into a whole culture, learning about the healing tools and following my own healing journey, and learning about the teachings and the traditions of the Incas and why they're being made available now. And so I found myself in Peru. Not the first time. I want to talk about the first time I was there, which was amazing, just going with one person that I knew and meeting the shaman and having a very intimate journey and experience visiting ancient sacred sites like Machu Picchu. Actually, the mountain behind us is Huayna Picchu. And in front of me, if you like, I'll be looking towards Machu Picchu. So Machu Picchu is a mountain, and it has the city of Machu Picchu. Yep. And between Machu Picchu and Huayna Picchu, the line of a mountain makes the shape of the condor. One wing is up at Huayna Picchu, up there, and the other one at Machu Picchu, which is somewhere behind me, or in front of me to you. And then there is the head and the beak. Wow. And all of the mountains seem to have found natural form, not being carved, but found natural form to represent the energies of the land and the energies of the mountain spirits. It's a magical place to go. It really is. So, if you've ever wondered, if people listening have ever wondered about going, then go. When the airports open up.
When are you going there next, Joe?
All being well, in April 2021.
Can I tag along?
Absolutely, yes. All you need is your passport and your toothbrush. Well, okay. Maybe a little bit more. Come. It is an amazing experience. And it was my journey with the first group that I've
Mm-hmm.
been to Peru that I want to tell you a little bit about. So I'd been before, and I knew a lot of the places we were going, but there was also places that I didn't know. And it's always an inner and an outer journey. Amazing things happen all the time. But some of the surprises are unexpected and can be a little bit difficult. It's a challenge. This time we had a group made up mostly of British people and Romanian people, with a few from other parts of Europe and the Channel Islands. Everyone knew someone in the group and had been following the way of the shaman in some part of Europe. So everyone had a lot of Inca culture under their belt and have been growing their medicine, which I think allows people to step into challenging journeys. So we found ourselves about a week, or maybe a little bit less, about a week into our journey in Sacred Valley of the Incas, which begins in Cusco, or just before Cusco, and kind of turns and heads then down this straight path towards what eventually becomes the Amazon jungle. So you can travel by road for most of it, but then you get to Ollantaytambo, one of the ancient cities, the towns, resting places of the Incas, and the roads stop. You can, if you're very adventurous and you've got one of these boats that survives rapids and waterfalls, you could probably go down the river and get out at Aguas Calientes, which is the resting place, the town underneath Machu Picchu, where a lot of people begin their journey. Anyway, this is where the journey began that day. We got up in the morning for an early start to get the train down through the valley, and there are steep mountains either side. The train has got a glass top roof, so you can look up, and you can look up to the top of the mountains, and sometimes you can see the condors flying over the top of you. The stone walls on one side have beautiful alpine flowers and aloes, orchids all growing on them. So and the train goes slowly because although we're going downhill, we're still thousands of feet up in the air. We're at the base of the mountains. And on the left-hand side going down, you have this torrential, deep cascading river that goes all the way down from the mountains down into the Amazon as a tributary. Just before we got on the train, the first of the unusual things happened. There's a little walk down towards the train station in Ollantaytambo. And as we're going down, my friend, it was her group, and she was leading the group. So she's out in front, and and fit as a fiddle. So a little bit surprised when between two wooden cabins, these little wooden cabin shops, this man emerges with two walking sticks, a bit like the shopkeeper from Mr. Ben, if anyone remembers that from their childhood or their children's childhoods. And he appears with his walking sticks and he says, "Walking sticks?" And she goes, I remember her saying to me, she goes, "No, I don't need walking sticks. Look at my legs." So he disappears back into the shadows. And we get on the train and everything's fine. And we're having a lovely, relaxing journey. I know that I've got all the group on the train. I haven't got to think about anyone. They're on the train. I can sit back and have a rest for an hour and a half. And the train is a journey itself. It's more like being on an airplane in some ways. The cabin staff come down and they've actually got the airplane snack trolleys. And it says on the side of it, fasten, secure before takeoff and landing. So you know that these were designed for higher altitude than even in the mountains. And they come along and I'm having a rest, nothing to worry about. We get off the train in Aguas Calientes. It's beautiful weather as usual in the Andes. And just organizing everyone to come with me. And one of the ladies in the group, another lady says, "I've left my walking sticks on the train." So we go, "Walking sticks? I've heard that somewhere before." So I wait, few people wait, and she goes back to the train, gets her walking sticks and come back. And half the group have gone on ahead. Excuse me. So now we're divided into two. I'm with the second part of the group. And we leave the train, we walk through this really interesting market that often distracts people. The the compulsion to explore and buy things makes people disappear down little alleyways, and you never
Yeah.
see them for another hour or half an hour. So I'm trying to bring everyone back in, like when you've got a basket of kittens. You say, no, in a nice way, but come on. And we leave the market, and we're walking up this very steep road. And as we've travelled down the valley, and the train has come down this way following the river, in Aguas Calientes, there's another river comes down to meet it, even steeper. And so there's a town on both sides. It's a geologically unstable zone. You have lots of earthquakes, and there's signs all around in Spanish warning you and letting you know this is the earthquake evacuation route. So you think, oh, all seems quiet and calm, but something could happen one time. And as we're walking up the steep side of the road and the deep river that runs down from the mountain into the main river, a lady leans over to take a photograph of this lovely river. And what does she drop over the wall down towards the river? Her
Walking
walking stick.
sticks.
Yeah. Now, starting to get a little bit curious about this, about what is this thing with walking sticks? And I'm also getting a little bit frustrated because, I stay with the lady. We're leaning over into the bushes, and I have this. I'm not very comfortable with snakes. People who know me well will know this. I have never really met a snake. I did stroke one in the zoo once when I went with my daughter for a kind of, small animal experience. But I've never really been close to snakes. So I know that my fear of them isn't really founded in experience, something in my subconscious or something archetypical. But I'm leaning over into this bush and I'm thinking, I want to be the good guy here and pick up these walking sticks. But there could be a little wriggling something down here that I don't know about. So if only I had a walking stick to poke around to find the walking stick, I'd be okay. But we get the walking sticks, and there's no snake. And I go, not going to die today. That's good. And so it's taken another couple of minutes, and we're a little bit further behind the front of the group. And as we get up to the last bridge to cross over, the group has stopped. And my friend who's leading the group, who was up at the front, is sitting down in obvious pain. Something has happened. And somehow she had tripped or fallen, twisted on her foot, and was in a lot of pain. All of the Kero shaman were around her immediately doing healing work and soul retrieval work. Now, we're used to the idea of soul retrieval as a practice that follows after healing. Maybe after many years of a life journey, we want to call back those parts of ourselves that we've lost connection with. And yet, they see the opportunity as soon as something happens. They know the trauma triggers a separation between ourselves and some core part of our essence or innocence, something that would be affected by the trauma unless it could step away before the incident happens. So the moment something happens, before the soul part disappears off to a place of safety, they call it back. They start to sing it back. So they're doing this work, and we're all trying to get close and help, but staying a bit further back so we don't get under people's feet. And eventually we make our way by way of a borrowed wheelchair, the ricketiest wheelchair I've ever seen. It might even be the only wheelchair in the Andes. And we made our way up to the hotel. And from this point onwards, we began to realize that my friend was going to be making a journey back to UK, at least back to Cusco and maybe Lima for a hospital, and our journey was going to change. So after a few conversations, we decided on a plan. She was going to go back on the train with her partner, and I was instructed to speak to Don Francisco and to convey her wishes to him about how to proceed. Now, Don Francisco is a very affable man. He's a Kero shaman that we work with, and it's a beautiful soul and a dear friend. But he always has his own idea about doing things. So I think, if you're in a group and you have the idea that you're leading the group and you want everyone to do what you want, that can be a little inconvenient. But it's also essential to working together, because by doing what he feels is right, he stays in harmony and balance with himself and in integrity in all that he does. So I rehearsed my little speech in Spanish, and I have the Google Translate app on my phone, so I'd even translated it to make sure what I was going to say made sense. And so I went out of the hotel, and I found him. And again, a little bit like Mr. Ben, he just pops up when you need him, just appears. And I said, I'm not going to try to say it in Spanish, but I had said, Don Francisco, and I conveyed my friend's wishes. I said, sir, wish that should you wish to invite someone into the ceremony, and we have ceremony with the shaman in the ancient sites on the land or near the mountains every day, that she would like Radu and Maruna to come together. And they're a couple. They have done their medicine work for many years. They've got a lot of experience. They're very respected by everyone, including me. And as a man and woman, they hold this balance between Yunanti and Musanti, masculine and feminine. We thought that would be good. They could do that. So he looked at me and just went, and walked off. And I thought, and I'm looking at my message. I said, get the thing again. I go, did I say that right? Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. So anyway, time comes to gather together. And we set off on our journey. And this time we were lucky. We managed to take the train from Aguas Calientes down the river. And there's a place where the train slows down and stops. Now, I always thought it was an official stop, but apparently you have to know the man who's the guard on the train to let people off. As they stop, they change tracks, and then, or they wait for another train to come up, because it's single track in some places. And then you go on. So we had special permission to get off the train. So we got off the train, and we regrouped, and we went off into the jungle. It's very light jungle there, but it's the beginning of the cloud forest, and very beautiful. Pineapples growing on the ground by your feet, and coffee bean bushes, or coffee bushes growing all around you. And they make the lovely. So when you come next year, you have to remind me at Jardin de Mandor, we stop for coffee. They grow and roast their own organic coffee beans. If you like coffee, it's delicious. If you don't like coffee, well, you don't like coffee, but it's lovely. And we went off following this wibbly wobbly path in through the undergrowth, getting deeper and deeper and more humid all the time. And we go to the cascada, the waterfall, and have a beautiful cleansing ceremony. So the shaman give you coca leaves to chew, and you chew them up. They're a little bit bitter. And then in this instance, they had stones in their hands, and they want you to spit and make as much noise to release with great gusto into your hands. Spit! And then they throw it all into the water vigorously. They give it to the water because waterfalls are vigorous, and we match that energy with our energy. Everyone is doing this, and just because of the mist of the jungle and the mist created by the waterfall, everyone's getting very wet. So once we're done, we leave, and we walk back through the jungle a little bit to this beautiful stone circle where we have our ceremony. And they lay, an altar cloth like this one over the stone in the center. It's beautiful, manta cloths. The patterns on these, they tell stories too. And these were originally made for babies to be born into. You would be weaving the altar cloth, or someone would be making this for your baby before they were born. Just as in Africa, there's a beautiful story of a tribe of people, and before the baby is born, before the mother conceives the baby, before, maybe even before she meets the father, but she has this idea she's going to have a baby, and she starts to sing the song of the baby's name. And then she tells the father-to-be, we're going to have a baby. Not today, Maybe not in 9 months, but it's going to come. You're going to be the father. So you have an opportunity to get used to the idea. And this is the baby's name. And this is how you sing it. So she would teach him the song, and she would teach everyone the song. So these cloths were originally made to hold babies. You'd be born into this, and you would have it all your life. So the cloth was laying down as the altar cloth, and all of our mesas, our medicine bundles, are placed on the top. So it starts to make a beautiful collection, a master, unorganized, ceremonial gathering of the altar. Each one of these is each shaman's personal altar, all gathered together. And I'm, like on the train, everything is done, nothing needs to do. Don Francisco is going to call someone in. It's going to be Rado and Maruna. I can relax and enjoy the ceremony. And I'm so relaxed and enjoying the ceremony, someone has to nudge me from the side and say, Joe, he's calling you. Who? Don Francisco. And I look up and he's going, yo, because he has, with the Spanish and the J sound, it's not so easy. Yo. Say, me? Si. Come. He wants me to sit beside him. And I twig on what's going to happen. Say, no. It's Rado Maruna. No. Yo, come. And I'm a little bit anxious. This is of course, there's a part of me that really wants to sit there and to have this gift and to be part of the ceremony. And it's such a beautiful thing. There's a part of me that's thinking, no, I was asked to arrange something different. And these guys, they're beautiful people and they should be there. And I turned to Rado Maroon. I said, what to do? And they said, go, he wants you, go. So it was all the permission I needed. And I go and I sit and I bring my mesa. And part of the ceremony are giving the rites, the initiations to the mesas. So each person receives these rites as energetic empowerments. And your mesa holds your whole healing journey. The stones are created from the healing work that a shaman does for themselves. And then they lend them to people in ceremony. So when I work with someone, they choose one of the stones from my mesa. And my mesa offers the gift of the healing that it's learned in service to them, and it learns more. But it also holds the template for the future. It holds the template for my soul's destiny, for my destiny as a spirit in human form. And so, if there's anything of these rites that is just a little bit too awesome and magnificent for us to hold, because, we're all working some of our issues about, I'm not good enough, I'm not handsome or pretty enough, or I'm not enough in some way. So Mesa holds it for you until you're ready to hold it yourself. So we had this ceremony. And, for the whole group, it was beautiful. And the same thing happened each day when we had ceremony. He would call me in. And I felt something inside me growing and growing and growing. At the end of our journey in Sacred Valley, we usually say farewell to the Kero shaman. And one of our shamans stays with us and comes overland to Lake Titicaca, where we work with other shamans, other traditions. We go out onto the lake and visit the islands, stay with the island folk sometimes. A different journey, but very beautiful. And at the last night, we have a fire ceremony. And at the fire ceremony, you bring your mesa to the fire. And I give from myself. Maybe I'll get a stick. I have a stick, I'll show you. A stick and blow into it. Maybe what I want to let go of, or my gratitude for the journey that I've been on. And I put it in the fire. And I reach into the flames. And I feed my body, the center of power, my heart, center of love, my mind, center of wisdom, and bring this into the body. And then I pass my mesa through the fire to feed my mesa from the flames. And as I did this, I noticed that my mesa tie, now, this is the new one. It's a few years old now. But, like everyone else, when I go to the markets that I mentioned, I like to do a little bit of shopping. And I found this new mesa tie that I really liked. But I really liked the old one as well. And so a week before the end of the journey, I had bought this new tie, but I couldn't let go of the old one. And so I tied the new one around the old one. I don't know why I did it, but I did. And I come to fire at the end. And as I pass my mesa through the fire, I can see the new tie tight around my mesa, around my medicine bundle. And the old one is loose and dangling. And I look at it, and it made me smile. On one hand, you'd think it would be the other way around. The one underneath is more secure, if it was just about physics. And the one on the outside, well, maybe that would get loose because it was the one that was most recently tied, but it was the other way. And it was like my mesa was untying itself. And in that moment, I took a step back to earlier that year, to the January, and I had asked a question about the medicine bundle and about passing on the initiations to the Mesa rites, as we do on our medicine wheel programs. And I'd said, how does it work? What do you have to do? And someone said, well, to give the rites to someone's Mesa, you have to be untied from the lineage that your Mesa is tied to. So as students begin their journey around the medicine wheel and they grow their Mesa, their medicine bundle, adding 3 stones in each of the 4 directions of the medicine wheel, they receive lineage rites and cells, Pampa Masayok, day keepers, Alta Masayok, wisdom keepers, Kuraka Kuyak, earth keepers. And the Mesas receive them as well. So I said, your Mesa has to be untied, because if you try to tie something around something and you're already on the inside, you can't, you have to come outside to do it. So he said, you have to have your Mesa untied. I said, oh, what does that mean? And they said, it means that all of the support, the buffer, if you like, that the lineage of medicine men and women provides to you. So this is medicine men and women forwards and backwards in time. The support they provide in acting like a buffer while you're learning, while you're experimenting on your healing journey. So, sometimes we fall out of balance and, maybe act without consideration to others or a little bit selfishly, something like that. So they create a buffer. So you see the impact of your actions before they come back and kind of smack you in the face, as life sometimes feels like it does. So it gives you that moment to think, oh, I could change that. I don't want to do that. So instead, you have a Salki Mesa, a wild Mesa. And so what does that mean? So, well, it means you're free. You're free to choose whatever you want to do. You're not held by anyone's rules or any obligations. You're not held by any morality. In fact, the path of the shaman is amoral. You have to decide on your own mores, your own rules for yourself. Just like Don Francisco. I tell him one thing and he goes, yeah, okay. And then he goes off and does something else because that was in balance for him. And anyway, I think he has his reason for why he did what he did, and I'm very grateful. But I decided at that time, that January, I quite like things the way they are. I like being held. I like the extra support. But when I looked at my Mesa, at the fire, and saw it had untied itself, I understood. I had had greater opportunities than I could imagine presented to me on this journey. And other people in the group who have maybe been following this path, these traditions longer, had the opportunity to step in too, but no one else wanted to lead the group. And I'm just, it's like a little surprised. I thought, here are, my peers who are my elders, more experienced, maybe know more than me. But for whatever reason, they didn't want to. And maybe it's just about what calls us, rather than they didn't have what it takes to say yes. And that's a lot of the way we look at opportunities we say no to in our cultures and societies. Maybe it just wasn't, they were in complete balance and harmony because it wasn't what was calling them, but it really spoke to me. And it's been quite a journey since then. So I feel like I've been talking for about an hour and a half.
No, less than that.
Let me
So
just have a sip of
was that
tea.
the first time that you officially stepped into the shoes, into the role of a shaman?
I don't think so. I wouldn't say it was the first time, but it gave me a very different experience, a very different expression. The word shaman doesn't come from the Andean culture. It's become popular across many European languages to describe a medicine person of some kind. But we know the word mostly from Siberian and Mongolian languages, and we see enduring examples of medicine people who haven't disappeared over the last 500 years with European colonization all over the world. And in Europe, we got rid of all of the healers and called them witches, whatever they would have called themselves. So this is one of the enduring medicine practices. But the word shaman, I'm sorry if I disappear off onto another track, but the word shaman is phonetically, it's more similar to Sanskrit
Mm.
than it is to any of the kind of North Euro-Asian languages. So it makes me wonder where it comes from originally. Not from Peru, because it's not in the Runasimi languages, it's not a Quechuan word. It shows up in Mongolian and Siberian, but it doesn't originate there. And the Kero people say that where they originate from, just like the word, they don't originate from South America. They traveled.
Mm.
And maybe a long time ago, when the continents were closer, they crossed that land bridge, the Bering Straits now, and they'd come from somewhere in Europe or Asia or India or Africa. We just don't know. But there was definitely a shift,
Mm-hmm.
from stepping into these traditions and having a living understanding of what it means, at least for me as I see it, to be a shaman. Different to when I was in my 20s, when I thought, I don't know what it is about that word. And I think it's because there's something deeply powerful in, every word is a vibration. And Sanskrit, every syllable has an individual meaning. For me, it's a very living language. So when you pronounce a word, or when you write a word, or when you see it, you make an energetic connection.
Yeah.
Whereas our European alphabet and languages, I think, have lost that origin. They've lost their original meaning. We have contemporary understanding of words, but not their original essence or meaning. So it took me a journey of dare I say how many years? I'm looking much younger than my years, but it took me a journey of close to 30 years,
Wow.
and all of the different things I did. But being able to step into the place of having a different relationship with what a shaman is. Many people, and myself included, are open to the belief, the understanding that we have more than one life.
Mm.
Our soul or spirit is on a journey. And so if we link it to time, we will have had past lives and we will have future lives. If we step out of our relationship with time and space in the way that we experience it as a human being, and think of time as being all moments in time are continuous. The past is happening, the future is happening, as if time was a circle or a spiral. So when we step out of this, we can experience the past and the future. And in stepping into that nothingness for a moment, just talking about it, I've even lost my train of thought for a second. The word shaman links with our memory, even our ancestral memory of powerful medicine men and women. And in our recent past, 500-600 years ago, what happened to all of those powerful medicine men and women in Europe that may have been our past lives, expressions of our spirit in another lifetime? They were all killed. And so something about these words and the resistance and stepping into the role of a shaman, identifying as being a healer or a shaman, may come from our memory or an epigenetic memory through our ancestral lineage that says, actually, the last time someone in this family showed up as a healer or a shaman or a medicine person,
Mm.
the last time you did in another life, what happened was that you were humiliated and tortured and murdered. So the best thing to do is to stay small,
Mm.
stay safe, stay quiet, be invisible. So I think maybe there's something like that that we experience with these words.
Mm.
And whatever path calls us in this life, um, the work we need to do is always going to be something around undoing what holds us from that place in the past, so that when we're not informed by the past, we can really step into our soul's journey, which is the hero's journey, and be informed by the future. The past is like the static on a radio. It makes it difficult to hear any other signal. So we want to clear the momentum in our lives created by the past so we can hear the voice of the future. And at any moment in time, there may be millions, countless possible futures, some very similar,
Mhm.
but many will be very different. Some amazing beyond our belief and imagination. And it's only when we're able to not listen and be fully informed by the voice of the past that says, stay small, stay safe, stay under the radar. You're expected to live like this in this family, in this country, in this culture. When we step out of that we're able to hear what's possible instead of what's probable. And that possible future is shouting as loud as it can. It really wants us to hear it, because if we don't hear it, we can't choose it. And if we can't choose it, we don't get to live it. And it dissolves. And we find ourselves aligning with a different future, a different destiny. One perhaps more like the one we're fated to live, that's been given to us by our family
Yeah.
or our school. The careers advisor, in their best wisdom, says, no, 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 no. You want a secure job. You want to do this. Go to university. Don't go backpacking around the world and have that kind of education. Get a secure job. Go into banking. Go into, whatever. Well, I don't, what is secure these days, but
Yeah.
to find security and stability, but to avoid change. And so when we don't have to listen to that, we can hear the voice of a much more amazing future than we could ever imagine from where we are now. So, how are we
Yeah.
doing with our talking time? I can't quite see the clock.
We still
I
have a
don't know
few
if there are
minutes.
questions.
We still have a few minutes. Jenny joined us. I didn't want to interrupt you, but Jenny joined us from South Africa, and we have Carolyn here from Singapore. And
Okay.
Carolyn says, Joe, you had me at when you said mythically deprived society.
Mm,
And Jenny is saying it's a beautiful share of harmony, alignment, and being in tune with universal gifts.
thank
She
you.
could listen to you for hours.
Well, you
I
probably
could,
guessed
I
I
could do
could
that
talk for
too.
hours. Yeah, I'm quite capable of talking for hours. It keeps me amused. I only hope that it's interesting to other people too. Um, our I think we're at a place where we're crossing over from what we can identify with as one paradigm into another. Completely different belief systems, different ways of living in the world. And I believe part of the old paradigm is about um, looking at opportunities and saying, if you don't seize or take the opportunity, it will be gone. You'll miss it. And that creates a lot of pressure and anxiety and
Yes.
fear. Um, and it relies on us looking at time as linear,
Yes.
like a train going along. If you don't see it out the window, it's gone unless you make the same journey again, go back the other way. And I think as we step into what I'm going to call is this new age, as many people do, the new Pachacuti, as the Incas call it, when the world turns over. So Pacha, like Pachamama, the world, the earth. Actually, Pacha, each syllable has a meaning. In Quechuan, just like Sanskrit, each syllable has a meaning. And pa and cha mean space and time. So the Pachamama, Mama, mother of the mother, Pachamama is the mother of space and time. Something has to give birth to space and time. We have space, a place, the earth, and
Yep.
we can arrange to meet or be born at different times. So a time is linear as we look at it as human beings usually. But if we can step out of our linear relationship with time, then the future already exists. And so even the things we pass, they still exist. And they can, as our relationship with opportunities shifts, the new opportunity, the one we missed, will redefine itself and present itself at another point in the future. All of the mythology of heroes' journeys, all of the ones that I can think of, um, they begin with some kind of loss or change. And usually the protagonist, the key person, protagonist, first in agony, from the Greek, first in agony.
Yep.
The protagonist, the hero on the journey, usually gets opportunities. They usually ask 3 times, do you want to step into this new journey? This is what it'll be like. And of course, at the beginning, we say no. Because I like what I'm familiar with. I like my little village here in Machu Picchu. I like my room here in this house. I like what I know, and I order things and put them the same way. And then, some time will pass, and we get another call. Something else will happen. Maybe a little bit of a loss, a challenge, and we're asked, "What do you think? Do you want to commit to this new journey?" So, maybe I'm thinking about it. And actually, this is just how I stepped into the very beginning of the medicine wheel. I sent out an email having identified the person and the program I felt I really wanted to follow. And they sent me back information in a fairly long email. And I replied saying, here's a list of reasons why I can't do this program. Now, isn't that mad? And I go, okay. And 6 months passed. And I thought, I'm thinking about it again. So I write another little email. Are you still doing it? Email comes back. Yes, we're still doing it. This is when the next one starts. Blah, 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 blah. And the email that I got was a bit shorter. And still, I had a lot of good reasons. I can't come because I've got a very busy job. It takes up all my time, and I haven't got enough money because all my money goes to supporting my kids and paying bills. And then eventually what happened was the universe organized it so that I lost my job, but because they said they liked me, they gave me a little bit of cash to go away with. And I thought, now I can't. Now I had to lose the job I was holding on to. There was a reason why I wanted to give up the job, because it was killing me. I had to lose my job. I wouldn't let it go. It had to be taken away. So I didn't have to worry. I had the time. And then they gave me the money, so I had the money to do it.
Yeah.
And the moment I stepped into it, but it took 3 times. And I think sometimes in our lives, it's very much like that. We want to say yes, but first of all, we identify with everything that keeps us stuck. That we say, that's me, that's mine, that's my story. And then we go a bit further, but eventually we come to a point where we cannot continue along the same road.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a road. In the Arthurian tales, Arthur sends the knights out on their Grail quest. There's loads of beautiful stories and mythology in the Grail. But he says, you go into the woods, into the forest, not by the main path, not by the one less traveled. That's a lovely idea, isn't it? The road less traveled. You go in where there is no path, on the road no one has ever walked before. And this is our journey. This is our hero's journey. And we avoid it because we don't know what's in front of us. We don't know where we're going to put our feet. We don't know. I don't know if there's going to be a snake, I'd put my hand out or my foot down. I'd fear of death. And this is what it is when we step into something we don't know. The world that we've been living in dies. Our relationship with it changes because we step into a new way of being and create a new identity for ourselves. So I invite everyone, when you go walking in the woods, from time to time, steer a little to the left or a little to the right and just go off where there's no path and see what happens. You may step in mud. You may get your clothes a little tangled with some brambly things. You might even get stung by a stinging nettle. But did you die? Or did something that holds you from living a greater life die instead?
It was beautiful, Joe.
Thank you. It's all in the moment.
Yeah. Well, that thing you said about 3 times, that resonates so deeply. So I have a friend who's a coach. She's based in India, and she also travels in 2 worlds. So she's also a shaman, and she does energy work. And back in about 2008, 2009, she had said to me during one of our conversations, she said, you have so much talent. I don't understand why you would choose to work for someone else. Because she was always this, I've got to work for myself. And she was doing well. And I said, wow, that's not me. I'm not doing that. I've always dreamt of, and I was working with these global organizations. And that's what I've studied for. My parents have spent so much money, that narrative. And she said, okay. And then I moved to the UK, and I took some time to get established in a new career here because of various reasons. And in that moment, she suggested to me, when I was still trying to find my foot here, she said, how about you do something of your own? And I said, oh, that's not me, because now I don't have a safe job as well, and I'm in a new country. I'm still just finding my way. But then the third time, I got cancer. So I got unwell, and I had to stop working, and I had to give up that safe and secured life. So I think it was the third time, third time, got lucky. And now I can't imagine going back to that life.
No. But I think maybe this will resonate with you a little bit. I know it does with a lot of other people that I work with and have spoken to, is sometimes something like cancer that can have so many different consequences in our lives. It can be the moment where people's lives change, whether they live with cancer, whether it disappears, whether it shortens their life expectancy and is the cause for the end of their life. But something happens in the way we see ourselves and our immediate future and how we choose to live.
Yes.
And I believe that we're moving more and more towards a way of living in relationship with ourselves and other people in the world we live in, where we're going to find it easier to answer the call of our heart or our soul without having to have such severe reminders or something saying, you're not listening. There have been all these moments when the living world around you has been speaking, and shamanism essentially is about this, having a relationship with the living world around and within us, an animistic relationship where everything has life. We've sent you these reminders, but you've got to this point now, you've got to stop.
Yep.
And I think for so many different reasons, and I also hope, but I do believe that's where we're going, is that it's going to become easier to hear the call of how to live and how to be in harmony and right relationship with ourselves in a way that is sweeter and easier to follow. And everyone who comes to watch these videos, who's part of your group, everyone who does work to support other people, and especially who does their own personal work, and has been doing this. We're creating, each wave of us creates the foundation for the next wave, and it gets bigger, growing with momentum. And you cannot stop the tsunami. And that's what we're becoming. We're becoming the tsunami of change. Yeah. I'm working with a chap at the moment who came to see me in January, and he has a form of cancer. And what he said to me is, this has changed my life. So we want to do something to reduce the cancer and to at least to hold it in check. But he believes that it's connected to patterns that have been with him all his life. And so we do work around that. And interestingly, as we do all of the other work about his life, every time he goes to the hospital, you can see the swelling where the tumor is inside the body. But he says, they're still not able to give me any results from the blood work to say that I actually have cancer.
Wow.
They want me to believe I do, and they tell me they're treating me as if I do, because if it looks like cancer and smells like cancer and tastes like cancer, it probably is cancer. That's the way they're working. But he's saying, this has happened to change my life. And, he's changed his diet. He's on a kind of mixed lot of smoothies, on a plant-based diet. And he goes out to the forests and he's found a particular forest that he likes to go to, because he says they're not all the same. And I agree. He's found the one he goes to, and the trees cleanse him. And this is completely different to the way he was living before.
Wow.
So
I'm not surprised, because you helped me with so much healing over the last few years. So thank you very much for that.
It's been a pleasure.
Joe, before we let you go, tell us, how can our people find you if they want to work with you?
Oh, absolutely. You'll find me on Facebook and find me through my website. The website has got telephone numbers and email addresses. So you just look for www.joemolloyshaman.com. That will get you there. It's Joe with an E. Anyway, I think if they're looking at this video, they'll probably find my name in there.
Okay, yeah. That should be pretty easy to find you.
Yeah. Rather than holding up a plaque with my business card on it.
And you're the magic man. You can have all these people come to you magically.
Yeah, it's people. Sometimes they say, I forget to ask. Some of my friends who are a bit more savvy about marketing, they say, you need to ask people, how did they find you? And I very rarely remember to do this, but often people will say, I don't know how I found you, but you kept showing up when I was looking for shamanic healing on Google. Of course, I pay some money each month to the nice Google people to advertise me. So I will pop up from time to time. But so do lots of other people. You get pages and pages. And I think the people that we need to connect with at a certain time will show up. And that's what I trust. But to help it along its way, I do have like Google Ads and my website. And even the pizza guy. I ordered pizza a few weeks ago, and I got a sticker on the side of my van saying, Joe Molloy Shaman, support your local shaman, I think he said. I was having a funny moment. And he said, what's this then? And I said a little bit. I just wanted to get my pizza and go in. And he said, oh, I've always wanted to know about shamanism in Peru. I said, hang on a minute. So my room's by the front door. And I grabbed some leaflets. I said, here you go. Give me a call. So if people find you, strike up random conversations with people, which are never random. You know, it's just the universe weaving the web together. Yeah. So they find me on Facebook, Joe with an E, and if not, they'll find me on this page. Or if they find you, you can tell them.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So I'm still listening to this hypnotic flute music going on in the background.
It's beautiful.
So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here, Joe.
Thank you. I hope the video is interesting, not just to everyone watching it now, but anyone else who decides to look at it later.
Yeah, we do usually have lots of people who catch up the replay, so I would expect that a lot of people are going to watch it later. So with that, I'm going to stop the streaming. Thank you to everyone who has joined us live. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.